Oral questions. Questions orales. Honorable Leader of the Opposition, soon to be next Prime Minister, Canada, Pierre Poilievre.
Mr. Speaker.
Anticlimactic.
The Premier of the Quebec nation said today that the Liberal government's decision to double the number of temporary immigrants, bringing it to 600,000, will imperil social services for Quebecers. Will the leader of the Bloc Québécois listen to what the Premier of the Quebec nation is asking? Who is asking that the Bloc Québécois not support the Liberal government next week, and that they support the interests of Quebec and the Quebec nation.
Yeah. No one voted for a Quebec Liberal
The Honourable Minister of Public Services
government.
And Procurement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would just like to say that, like you, I used to be a page in the House of Commons, and I'd like to thank and welcome the new cohort of pages. We know that their responsibilities and services are extremely important. Thank you for being here with us. Now, it's laughable what the Leader of the Opposition is saying. He's saying that we should cut, and cut to help Quebecers, including in healthcare, childcare, and so on. Thank you. Before moving on to the next question, I'd like to remind all members that it's important that questions have to do with questions of this government's administration in order to address issues of
Here he goes. On the first one, he's already power tripping.
It's not just the Premier of the Quebec nation, but also the PQ in Quebec that is condemning this centralizing, expensive government. He said that this government voluntarily destabilized Quebec, and that's an abuse of power by the federal government. The Bloc Québécois is propping up a party that is abusing Quebec, according to the PQ. Why has the leader of the Bloc Québécois abandoned the Parti Québécois and all Quebecers to keep the most centralizing prime minister in history in power?
Trudeau's not there, eh? He's out getting cheese. Trudeau's at the factory getting cheese.
This is a matter that has nothing to do with the federal government. That said, I see that the Minister of Canadian Heritage is rising. The Honourable Minister. We know that the last time that Premier Legault decided to become an ally of the Conservatives, we know that Quebecers had their say about that. They didn't like it at all. And we know that Mr. Legault and the leader of the Parti Québécois want to destroy an incredibly important institution for Francophones in Quebec. I'm talking about Radio-Canada. We will always fight for our culture and for Quebecers.
Always fight for cheese.
Monsieur le Président.
Another French one.
Unfortunately, the Prime Minister has lost his Quebec lieutenant.
Yeah. Pablo Rodriguez.
At the provincial level. But luckily, he's found another Quebec lieutenant. That's the leader of the Bloc Québécois.
Holy shit.
Who will be voting to increase spending by $500 billion in inflationary spending. He's voting to increase the size of the public service. He's voting in favor of a government that has broken the immigration system. In fact, it is the Conservatives who are the real defenders of Quebec.
We all knew that the NDP leader had sold out the people and signed on to a costly coalition with this carbon tax prime minister to tax people's food, punish their work, double their housing costs, and unleash crime in their communities. But he claimed that he had torn up the carbon tax coalition so that Winnipeggers would not fire him in a by-election. But as soon as the votes were counted, he betrayed them too and taped back together this carbon tax coalition. How can anyone ever believe what he says again?
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. It's a good one for Pierre.
There's a very uncomfortable situation here. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The NDP leader was terrified he was going to lose a by-election in Winnipeg, a NDP stronghold. So he put out a Hollywood production where he claimed he had torn up the carbon tax coalition onto which he had signed up, that he was going to stop fighting for his pension and start fighting for the people. But once the votes were counted, betrayed them again. He is a fake, a phony, and a fraud. How can anyone ever believe what this sellout NDP leader says in the future?
Wow! And he's gonna mute the mic! Come on, man! Come on! We pay our taxes. We deserve to hear what the hell's going on. He's gonna say it's unparliamentary because you can't say fake and phony, you can't name call. And then he's gonna get up and call him a wacko, I betcha. Pierre's down in the corner, and Andrew Scheer on the bottom right, the Conservative MPs there, they're looking further down the Liberal side possibly, and they're arguing with visible frustration.
Colleagues.
Come on! Dude, I am this close to doing a petition. You motherfucker! He did it again! You son of a bitch! Is the video muted? I thought it was paused. No, I thought it was a statue. I thought it lagged out. He's just standing there. This is a video. Look at him. It's running video. Stone face, stone cold Greg Fergus. What the hell is happening? I am sorry to everyone who's using headphones. I'm sorry. You should know not to use headphones when I'm streaming. Frustrating. I don't like to swear. I try to keep it PG. It's politics. It's politics. I never know who's watching. But for crying out loud, man. Are you kidding me? Put some L's down. Put some L's down for Greg Fergus. This is absolutely an abuse of power. I gotta calm down, dude. Holy shit, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for yelling. I'm wearing headphones. How loud am I? Hello? Yeah, I'm pretty loud. Sorry. Okay. Bring it. Testing. Okay. So sorry for yelling, folks. I got these headphones on in my basement. I gotta get out of control. Greg Fergus has constantly abused that microphone mute button. And he needs to face some sort of repercussions for doing so.
Colleagues, there are some long-standing traditions of this House, which we should endeavor to respect. It is important that we ask questions in question period to make government accountable to the people of Canada. The questions, by their very nature, should be pointed, should be tough, should be specific, and the answers should also be clear. But colleagues, for this to work, we also have to make sure that we work within the rules that we have. There were some important questions which were asked, but were not related to the administration of the government. And therefore, there weren't responses to that. And it is important to make sure that we do that. We have so many other tools available to us as members to make the comments that we need to make outside of question period, to comment about how we want to do. Now, while the microphone was off, there were, I would suspect, although the chair didn't hear that, there might have been some strong words which were exchanged between members.
Yeah, you, Greg.
Ask members to please remember that Canadians are looking at us.
Hell yeah, and the majority of them looking at this fucking stream.
Really befitting of each of our constituencies and the country as a whole. So,
You, Greg? Trying to gaslight people, bro?
So with that in mind, let's move on to the next question.
The Canadian Medical Association is worried about privatization in our healthcare system. They're worried about the real impacts of a dangerous shortage of frontline healthcare workers, family medicine, family healthcare workers. They're worried about specialist shortages, nurse shortages. The Conservatives want to make people pay to receive healthcare, and the Liberals are too weak to stop them. Why the Liberals letting Conservatives force people to pay out of pocket to receive healthcare?
Here, here.
again, I'm just going to ask members, please, not to take the floor unless they are recognized by the Speaker to do so. I know some members would like me to make a more specific intervention. Unfortunately,
nobody wants you to do that.
Making that intervention, but I will ask members, please, to not speak when they're not recognized. The Honourable Minister of Health.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And working together, we've been able to make incredible progress in our health system.
Is someone saying, is Jagmeet drunk?
Based on cooperation, $200 billion. And with the NDP, when they were interested in working with us, we were able to do things like dental care with 6,000 people already getting care. We're able to do things like pharmacare. But unfortunately, the NDP has made a choice. They've decided to give in to a bully who's using playbook that comes from a movie like Mean Girls, rather than stand up and fight for our healthcare system and work collaboratively, Mr.
The Honourable Member for Burnaby South.
Medicare, Liberals and Conservatives are tearing it down.
Liberals promised.
He might be drunk.
In Quebec. With the
he's drunk. People are saying he's drunk. Holy shit.
Quebecers aren't getting anything because the Liberals and the Legault government are too busy fighting between themselves. Is the Prime Minister going to stop dragging his feet and finally deliver the assistance to Quebecers? The Honourable
Becca with the $5.
Continue the work on pharmacare? No. Did they choose to continue the progress on dental? No. Did they choose to make progress on working with provinces and territories in a spirit of collaboration? No. Instead, they yielded to a bully. They abdicated the field. They got afraid. They walked away. Well, we're not afraid, Mr.
Oh, shut up.
Stand up and we're going to fight for public health care in this country.
Bro, you're wearing a bow tie.
We're going to deliver dental.
Come on.
We're going to deliver diet.
Go read the dictionary.
We're going to make sure that every woman has access to contraceptives and nothing is going to stop us.
A man wearing a bow tie saying we're fighting for tampons. Come on, dude.
The Honourable Member from Regina. The Honourable Member from Regina Capel.
After 9 years of this NDP Liberal government, taxes are up, prices are up, crime's up, time's up. And
there you go.
The NDP leader has sold out workers by devaluing their paycheck by supporting Liberal inflationary deficits. He sold out seniors and families by hiking the carbon tax, driving up the cost of food and home heating. And he has sold out young Canadians who have given up on the dream of home ownership thanks to the doubling of housing costs. And what did he sell them out for? To protect his pension. Now Canadians have to suffer longer just so he can get paid. So why doesn't the Prime Minister just call a carbon tax election so Canadians can decide?
The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I don't think we should be politicizing pensions, but if the member opposite or his leader wants to talk about the size of their pensions, then they should talk about that, because at a time when they are getting millions of dollars or will be getting millions of dollars in government pensions, they also look to cut the pensions of everyday Canadians. Wow. Mr. Speaker, we are here to support seniors no matter where they work, not just parliamentarians with their pensions. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member from Regina Capel.
It's Canadian seniors who are cutting back because of this government's cost of living crisis. They're cutting back on food and home heating because of the carbon tax and inflation that this government caused. But let's go back to the NDP leader. He had a really dramatic show this summer where he pretended to rip up the agreement, but then would never commit to actually voting non-confidence and giving Canadians the carbon tax election they so desperately want. It was all just a show. So simple question, during all those meetings with the Prime Minister and the leader of the NDP, was the Prime Minister just giving him acting lessons?
Honourable Minister of Labour and for Seniors.
Mr. Speaker, it's very interesting to hear my friend from Regina Capel, who was around in those days. In fact, he was sitting right where you're sitting, Mr. Speaker, when Prime Minister Harper went to Davos. Yes, Davos. For a reminder for some of you in the back, that's the World Economic Forum. And he went there to do what? To tell Canadian seniors that their retirement age was moving to 67 from 65. How dare the member from Regina Capel stand in this House and talk to us about pensions, Mr. Speaker?
I didn't know that.
This is what saving the furniture looks like.
I could have sworn that yesterday was Wednesday.
Yeah, man.
Remember,
Wednesday's supposed to be the day. This is crazy.
10 years of the NDP Liberals. Taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, and time is up. And the Liberals and the NDP believe in quadrupling the carbon taxes to 61 cents a litre. And this is at a time when 2 million Canadians a month are going to food banks. Seniors are turning down their heat, and people are living in RVs in truck stops. Canadians cannot afford this costly coalition. When will the Canadians have a carbon tax election so they can decide between the costly NDP Liberal coalition and common sense Conservatives?
the Honourable Minister for Natural Resources and Energy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It would be nice in this House if people actually used facts. At the end of the day, a price on pollution is actually an affordability mechanism. To get rid of the carbon rebate will actually be making people who live on modest incomes poorer. At the same time, it will be imperiling the future of our children, abandoning them to a future where we have runaway climate change. It is so ridiculous after 300 economists...
Our taxes haven't solved any forest fires or floods.
...refuses to talk to any one of them that they can get up and make up these fairy tales.
How many years until we have no more forest fires and floods?
Country.
It's not a fairy tale that people can't afford to feed themselves in Canada, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, man.
NDP leader
cost of living
24 times for the carbon tax, and the NDP talk a big talk, but they cannot be trusted to do what's best for Canadian families. The NDP Liberals tax your food, punish your work, take your money, double your housing costs, and unleash crime and drugs in your communities. Common sense Conservatives will axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime. Time is up. When will we have a carbon tax election so Canadians can choose their future?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment and for Climate Change.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Setting aside the fact that both the Parliamentary Budget Officer and 300 economists have said that 8 out of 10 Canadians get more money than they pay to carbon pricing, we have a report today that from the independent organization, the Climate Institute, which shows that emissions are down again in Canada, Mr.
Oh, come on, Harry, pot smoker. Go climb the CN Tower, buddy.
The report also shows that without our plan, emissions would be 41% higher. That's the non-plan from the Conservative Party of Canada. That's the equivalent in terms of pollution of adding 60 million vehicles on our road, Mr. Speaker. That's what we're talking about here.
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Member from Kenora.
After 9 years of this NDP Liberal government, taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, and now, Mr. Speaker, their time is up. They have ballooned costs and driven up taxes to the point that people are struggling to feed, heat, and house themselves. And it's why Canadians deserve a carbon tax election. Will they be able to choose between our common sense plan to axe the tax or the NDP Liberal plan to quadruple the tax? So, Mr. Speaker, why are the NDP continuing to sell out Canadians and support this Liberal government?
Yeah. The Honourable Minister for Families and Social Development.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the opportunity that the Conservatives have given me to speak about what's up. Do you know what's up, Mr. Speaker? The number of
crime, taxes,
available
unaffordability,
across this country.
people unaliving themselves.
Speaker, women's
How much time you got?
participation in the workforce is at an all-time high. Because of our investments in the early childhood educator workforce, we've also seen that wages have gone up for this workforce, Mr. Speaker. And one more Canada Child benefit was raised in the summer, going up.
The Honourable Member for Kenora.
Mr. Speaker, that is cold comfort to the people struggling to fill their gas tanks, put food on the table, and afford simple, basic necessities. But we know the NDP will only pretend to stand up for Canadians if they can be assured that they have the backing of the Bloc to keep this tired and corrupt government in power. 24 times, in fact, the NDP voted in favour of the carbon tax while Canadians are struggling just to get by. So once again, this is why we need a carbon tax election, so that Canadians can choose between our plan or the NDP Liberal plan. Why are they so afraid to give Canadians a choice at the ballot box?
There you go, man. W's, let's go.
Some voices are more distinct than others.
We know Drunk Jagmeet's watching. We know Liberals are watching, and Trudeau's at the cheese factory watching. Give some W's down for that Conservative MP so they can all see.